So we're here at Broad Weir in Bristol because this was the scene of the most devastating single bomb in the history of Bristol. I said I'd show it to you at some point, and now's the time. Just to give some background, as we know, during autumn of 1940, the RAF had won the Battle of Britain, and up here, and what happened was that the daytime mass bomber raids on London had devolved, I suppose, or dissolved, whatever you want to call it, into nighttime raids. And up here, you've got the old Bristol Castle. I'm not going to walk right up to the top now, but this all along here, you wouldn't know it now because it's just beautiful trees and parklands and everything. Although we've got lots of gravestones, Victoria Cross winners from the southwest up there, which make an interesting read if you just pop up to the top. But what happened, August, September of 1940, there were, over this period, right through to April 41, and of course the most devastating raid was 11th of April 41, the so-called Good Friday raid. Bristol was being raided because it was seen as a major port that was supplying the Midlands and, you know, sort of the west coast of Britain with supplies that were coming over from America. And the Luftwaffe wanted to eliminate that. And so all along here, it was an ancient street, actually, Castle Street up there. And it had all these medieval buildings. It's amazing if you look at pictures of it from the past. And they all burned. I'm told that even in the cellars of a lot of those buildings, you could see the dungeons of the original Bristol Castle, which stands up there, but it's in ruins, and people diss it, saying it's it actually has an interesting history. They go back to the Civil War and before that, which, you know, maybe we'll talk about another time. But yeah, it was all totally trashed anyway in one of these big raids that basically burnt everywhere around here. But the reason why we're here is this is Broad Weir, like I said, and this was in August of 42. I'm afraid I don't have the date off the top of my head, but it was a single Luftwaffe plane, and it was Junkers 86P, which P stood for pressurized cockpit. Presserieren or something, I don't know what it would be in German, but anyway, it could fly at very high altitude, in excess of 40,000 feet. And really, because our planes lacked decent superchargers and lacked pressurised cockpits and so on, we couldn't get that high. And so what they wanted to do was just send over one plane just as a nuisance raid. And that's exactly what they did. And unfortunately, it was devastating because it landed just over here. They dropped just a single bomb. The reference I was reading said it was a 500-pound bomb. Now, they did not use imperial bombs. They used metric bombs. So I imagine they really mean a 500-kilogram bomb. That sounds far more likely. They dropped 250 kilogram and 500 kilogram. And unlike our bombs, we have bombs of similar weights, general purpose bombs. But the Germans, because of their better quality of steel manufacture and stuff, they were able to fill them with a much greater percentage of explosive. At the time, our bombs only had like 22% explosive. So most of the weight was not the actual stuff that goes bang. Whereas the Germans, I don't know the percentage, but it was much higher than that. We did increase it as time went on, up to sort of around 50%. And we devised better explosives, things like Torpex and Amatol and these kinds of things. Whatever. Anyway, this plane came over at rush hour, 9 o'clock, and Bristol was still a working city. You know, it's not like everyone was hiding. And Bristol hadn't been bombed for quite some time, at least certainly not heavily. I'm not even aware if air raid sirens went off. Probably not, because I doubt the observer corps would have even seen this single plane coming over. I imagine it would have been detected when it went up by chain home. But yeah, anyway, it flew right over here, dropped its single, 500-kilogram bomb, and it exploded on a Rolls-Royce car that was just over there, with a full tank of petrol, unfortunately. And it, you might not think a 500-kilogram bomb is very much. I mean, we're dropping 4,000 pound cookies, from every Lancaster and stuff. When our raid started developing sort of come, into 1942 and especially onwards after that. So it doesn't sound like much, but it's an actual, it's a ginormous blast. If it hit there, I'd be flown back, against that wall, probably killed. We're talking about a massive explosion. And this Rolls-Royce obviously went up in flames and spewed its petrol everywhere. And 3 buses, just like today, there are buses to be seen here. 3 buses went up in flames at the same time, partly because they were smashed up by the bomb, and also because of the Rolls-Royce, it seems, with the petrol. It was very flammable. And it killed, I believe, 42 people. Again, I don't have the reference right now off the top of my head, but it was the single most devastating bomb. Anyway, speaking of buses, that's mine, so off we go. But yeah, I believe that was the last time Bristol was raided, but they made their mark at rush hour, against completely unknown, unsuspecting, rather, people on the ground.